Today, all about pain-free movement. As we are getting older, I don't know about you guys, but my body has surely changed. And right now I'm dealing with frozen shoulder, but I'm still trying to work out, exercise, and make sure that I keep moving because the alternative to that is really not good. So today what we're going to cover is why we lose mobility and strength, the power of pain-free movement, how to rebuild your body safely, and what are the barriers that we face? How do we overcome them? And how do we stay consistent, more importantly? So, exercise should not be one of those things that are on and off. It should be a constant in your life. How do we make that happen? All right. So, why do we lose mobility and strength? It really is truly part of the natural aging process. And in addition to the fact that we have become such a sedentary community of people, and what that causes then is muscle loss. And it's anywhere from 2 to 8% per decade, weakness, and also tightness. Also, a second reason that we lose mobility and strength is we're afraid to get hurt. It doesn't feel good when you're in pain. And the more we're afraid of pain, the less we're going to move, which in turn causes more pain. So it's like this big giant circle of pain. So, what about movement actually helps prevent pain or keep you from being in pain? Movement is really medicine. It increases your circulation, it increases your lubrication, and it also gives you these wonderful things called endorphins, which is like when you eat a big fat chocolate chip cookie or piece of pie or something that you really love to eat. It actually says to your body, "Ooh, this is really yummy." Exercise does the same thing, or I should say, movement does the same thing. As far as lubrication is concerned, some of you may have heard me say this in the past, but there is something called synovial fluid. And the more we move, the more our body generates that within our joints. As we get older, does it lessen? Sure, but it doesn't completely stop. So that's another important reason to keep moving. And then also just note that pain free doesn't mean passively exercising. You want to be active or not passively exercising. It doesn't mean to be passive, it means you still need to move. Let me let Kristen know that I am unable to get on. Any questions on that so far? It's like a catch 22. Okay. So, what are some gentle strength building movements? We can actually go over them, but I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. If you were to hop down on the floor, glute bridges are amazing. And I always like to do them with two things: a resistance band that goes around the tops of your knees and some sort of load or resistance so that you can capture the slings within your body. So shoulder to opposite hip. So this would go on top of your feet. I'm wondering if I'm super small. Hang on. Let me stop sharing for this part. So take the band, step through it. If you don't have a sandbag, any kind of resistance will work. But what we're trying to do is activate your lats with your glutes. And a lot of times, because we sit so much, you can't actually feel your glutes working. So this gives you a little bit more feedback and makes your glute bridges more effective. Heels down and push your butt about hip distance apart. I'm going to grab either the resistance band or I'm going to hold the outside handles of the sandbag and I'm just going to pull apart, pressing through the bottoms of my hips are going to go up and then we're going to come back down. So this is just a very simple version of a glute bridge. You can do single leg, which makes things more challenging, especially with the band on. You can do chops, downward chops while you do it. So lots of different ways to do a glute bridge. Another easy way to start moving is just doing a wall sit, right? So back yourself up into a wall, drop your hips so that they're in line with your knees. Your knees would then also be in line with your shoulders. And you would hold this position right here until you felt your quads really start to shake. Really easy on the knees. You shouldn't feel it in the knees if your feet are in proper position. If your feet are closer to the wall, you might start to feel your knees. But this is just a great exercise, believe it or not, isometrically working your quads. You'll feel a little glutes and you'll also feel some abs. Let me flip that to see what else I had here. Chair squats. Super simple. And this actually helps when I'm working with new clients that really don't have great squat technique. Put a chair behind them and have them just lightly touch their butt to the chair. So from the side, I'm just sitting my hips back enough that I'm not feeling it in my knees. The width of your feet really depends on you, but sitting those hips back and coming back up. A lot of times folks will start a squat like this with their knees coming forward, and that's definitely not what you want to do. Another easy exercise to do would be bird dogs or dead bugs. So a bird dog is from that quadruped position, you're on your hands and knees, and you're just reaching forward, opposite arm, opposite leg, try to do the same time. I, of course, like having the sandbag when I do those, and then doing the drag as I'm extending my foot and reaching that opposite arm forward. You do the same thing, it's a little more challenging on your back, right? But these are exercises you can do pretty much anywhere. And even if you didn't have a resistance band or a sandbag or a longer resistance band, you could even do bridges by themselves too. So lots of things you can do with just your body weight. And for somebody that has really never worked out, these resistance bands are great because you're not going to hurt yourself, right? You don't have to worry about these snapping, and you also don't have to worry about picking up real heavy weight. So for somebody that's just starting out, the resistance bands are a great way to introduce yourself to the principle of overload, right? Which is basically what we're trying to accomplish when we are adding resistance, right? Or trying to create resistance. All right. Go back to share. Okay. Step one is for sure mobility. Think about throughout your day, especially if you're sitting at a desk the majority of the day, taking little movement snacks. So that could just be getting up, walking around, stretching in your chair, just reaching back in your chair and opening up your chest. Bring one leg behind you as you slip off to the side to stretch your hip flexors. You want to focus on stretching basically the front of your body. Everything in the front tends to get tight. Everything in the back tends to get weak. And just practicing breath work, right? Don't underestimate the value of the very first thing you did when you entered into this earth. It was breathe, right? You weren't breathing in the womb, but you were breathing oxygen and really teach yourself to slow that breath down. All right, so mobility first. Here are just some exercises that you could do, and we're actually going to do a little movement flow. Hopefully you guys can join me while we do this, but start with just hip circles. So taking your hips and trying to keep your eyes in the same, and your head in the same position, working your hips in a nice big circle, go the other way, right? Think about head to toe your joints or toe to head. Shoulder circles, just taking those shoulders, rolling them around to the back, rolling them around to the front. The cat cows, you can see, you can even do them standing, but or with your hands on your knees, just arching through your spine and then rounding and arch and round and always moving with your breath. And then this last one in the bottom left corner there is a spinal twist, which you could also do in your chair. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you something called a bretzel. I'll have to take it off so you can see it a little better. But spinal twist, you could even do in your chair. Just take your hand, wedge it on the outside of your knee, and turn back. And you can do the same thing on the other side. So just taking a few minutes throughout your day, even if it's a couple times a day to start to move your body, especially if you're sitting at a desk all day. As I said, we are made to move. And if we're not doing it, we're really creating movement dysfunction within our bodies. So think about ways that you can do that throughout the day. You also want to stretch tight muscles. This one at the bottom here makes me cringe right now because I don't think I can do that with my bad shoulder, but I could do it with the other shoulder. I shouldn't call it a bad shoulder, my dysfunctioning shoulder at the moment. So get yourself into a door and position your hands low, medium, and high, and just literally do a passive stretch. And if you want to make it a little bit more challenge, actually push into the wall as you're stepping through. So that's more of an active stretch versus a passive stretch, and do a couple of each. You can see this guy over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this is called a bretzel. And I like this for a couple reasons. As you can see, he's doing a spinal twist, right? Maybe you can't see so well, but he's grabbing his bottom foot with his top arm. So he's opening up his chest on this side, the top side. He's opening up the bottom hip and he's getting a spinal twist. And you can actually do this as an active range of motion. This is a really great stretch. So I'm going to stop and show you. So on this one, you come down on the floor and you would take your bottom leg, pull it back, try to get your knee lined up with your hip. Top hand is going to anchor the knee down. And how do you make it active? Take a nice deep breath in. And as you exhale, pull the knee down, but rotate your head back. And then come forward again, take a deep breath in, exhale, and rotate back. And let your eyes lead the movement there. That's a great stretch. Again, you're stretching the chest, the top arm, the opposite hip, and you're getting a spinal twist. So that's a good one. It's a nice little warm up or cool down stretch. Any questions on that? It's a good one. All right. And then the other thing that people will complain about a lot, and again, this is from sitting so much. So back pain, right? You think you have back pain, but it really could be coming from your weak glutes or your tight hamstrings. So this just shows you a bunch of different hamstring stretches. This guy has tight hamstrings too. He's doing leg up the wall. His legs should be able to go straight here. So you can also do a half of a stretch. We do that in yoga. The heck's it called? Half forward fold, where you take your left foot, bend it, put it on the inside of your right foot, and then you go up and over to the other side or reach forward. Little less intense, or you can do this high pyramid. But however, you can even throw your foot up on a chair like this straight leg hamstring stretch here. Put your foot up on top of a chair and lean forward, and you'll get a nice deep stretch there. All right. So step 2 is really all about creating stability. And stability is going to come from strong abs, back, and glutes. So, some of the things you can do for that are pelvic tilts, where you're laying on the floor and you're literally just breathing in, breathing out, and you're tilting your pelvis forward and back. And doing my TPI, Teos Performance Institute, there's one assessment that we have to give, and it's holding your body still and you're trying to tilt your pelvis forward and back. Michael Jackson move. It's amazing how, as we get older, that becomes not smooth at all. It's almost you're scraping something. It's like a stop start, really strange movement. And you could try that at home by, again, just standing with your arms crossed. And they call it shake and bake, which I think's hilarious. So you get into what is called a ready position or a golfer position, right? So I'm here, my spine's neutral, and I'm just trying not to move anything but my pelvis. It's much harder to do when you're standing up than it is on the floor. So when I'm trying to go back like this, there's like a little stutter in the movement. It's a crazy feeling. So you should try that and see what yours feels like. If it feels strange to you, then it's probably just a part of aging and you can work on that. Try to make that get better and improve it. I already talked about the mini band for your glutes. So you could even do side lying clamshells or you could do side stepping exercises. Most often, when people are doing the side stepping, their toes start to turn out. As women, especially, our quads are very strong and they're very dominant and they tend to take over, especially if our glutes are really weak. So focus on keeping your feet straight forward, or sometimes I'll even cue turn your toes inward. And that kind of lights people's minds up to think, okay, I need to over exaggerate the movement. And then their feet actually straighten out. And then different core activation exercises. Again, I love using the sandbag for doing dead bugs, bird dog drags, USB circles, just because with the load and the fact that you can get your lats involved, it really speeds up the core strengthening process. So love those exercises. I'm not going to do this. I was going to, but for the sake of time, I'm going to share this with you guys. There is a program called Original Strength. And most of you, if you're in my app, you'll see the resets warm up. And that's the breath work, the head nods, the rolling, that sort of thing. Those are your basic 5 resets. And this guy, Tim, we're meant to move. Back in the day, nobody actually had to schedule exercise in, but because we've become so sedentary, we actually have to schedule our exercise in. So he talks about just moving your body and thinking about all of the joints and the flow that your body needs to have or should have, because that's how we're naturally built. If you watch a toddler, the things that they can do without any thought is really amazing. So I will send this video to you guys, and he calls this his 5-minute like energetic movements. If you're just waking up, you're probably not going to want to do this thing as much as you would want to do the warm up resets, but it really does feel good. And what's crazy is you'll see there's a couple sections in here where he actually bounces and does the Taylor Swift shake it off thing. When I was doing my Tai Chi seminar, I think it was sometime in April, he talked about bouncing and how that's really good for your central nervous system. And he'll do that a couple times in here. So I will forward this to you guys and you can practice it and see how it makes you feel. And then again, in the workouts, the warm up resets are like the first thing that you should do. Every time I work out for probably the last 7 years or so, I've been doing the breathing, the head nodding, the rolling, the crawling every time. So make sure that you're incorporating that. And then step three is really building functional strength. And you could do that with just your body weight. If you haven't worked out in 10 years or ever, you can for sure start by just using your body weight as your resistance. Once you start feeling a little bit more comfortable, you feel like your movement is smoother, you're getting stronger, you can do more, you're not as out of breath. That's when then you want to add resistance to your movement. And resistance can come in any form. Again, it's just the basic principle of overload, right? You're trying to fatigue the muscle by pushing it to its limits in a pain free way. No pain, no gain is definitely out the door. It's so 1980 and so 1990. But we do too want to spend majority of our time training movements, not just muscles. When I first started working out in the gym, it was all about single body parts. Then I was opened up into the world of functional movement, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense to me. Not saying that single isolation movements have no place, because if you're trying to get strong, like in a competing way, like powerlifting or whatever, then you have to work out a different way than for daily life. And you would be amazed at how strong some people are just using the TRX, not even picking up a weight and using some resistance bands. So when it comes to pure strength, you have to lift heavy load if you're trying to get stronger. But you can also start with your body weight and challenge yourself in different ways to make yourself stronger. There are tons of different ways to use your body to create better strength. The basic movements when you are creating a program, and this is how I think when I create programming, is pushing, pulling, hip dominant movements, which are hinging, knee dominant movements, which are things like squats, lunges, and then different kinds of carries. And then the two core movements that I focus on are anti rotation and anti extension. At this stage in the game, we really don't want to be doing anything like, what was that, Russian twists. Really not good for the health of an older person's spine. Sit ups, crunches, forget about all that stuff. We really want to protect and enable the strength of our deep internal core muscles, which are helping to support our spine. So, all those other things are superficial muscles that if you're moving and you're working out, you're going to have those muscles. The only way you're going to see them, though, is through diet. But training the muscles that support your spine is what we really are after. So, how do we overcome barriers and stay consistent? The number one thing that I will hear is, I don't have time. And honestly, 10 minutes is better than zero. I can't tell you the number of times that people came to my gym and said, I need to get in shape before I can start training with you. I'm like, no, that is definitely not what you need to do. You need to come see me so I can help you not get hurt and help you get in shape. So that's always a number two big reason. Number three, again, is fear of getting hurt, especially as we're getting older. So how do we get around that? You reframe your mindset, right? Think about progress over perfection every time and in every situation. When it comes to your workouts, when it comes to your nutrition, we didn't start going to school and learning calculus, right? So we progressed ourselves to get to calculus. And you have to do the same thing when it comes to exercise and your nutrition. Focus on feeling better, not on not doing the things that you think you're supposed to be doing or beating yourself up because you skipped one workout. It's all about the compound effect. So those small, consistent habits are going to add up. Again, 5 to 10 minutes a day is better than none. Try to make it a ritual, not a chore. Put it on your calendar. Truly, it's an appointment with yourself. So if you put it on your calendar, and especially if you do it at a time when you know you're not going to be interrupted, it's going to become a habit. It's going to become a ritual, and you're just going to get so used to it that you don't have to think about it. It's just something that you do. All right. So to recap, you can move without pain, better mobility, then better strength, and better consistency is what we're after. Pain free does not mean you are to be inactive. You want to focus on intelligent movement. So think about it as this is your comeback season. It starts with one move and it's going to be with you every step of the way. It's not about having to get that hour workout in and missing Monday. So then you don't start until the following week. Just get whatever you can in, even if it's 5 minutes, it's going to be better than nothing. And start with mobility and easy body weight exercises. Don't make it so hard on yourself. And then just some success stories about pain and being unable to move. I had a woman come in. She was 72 at the time, and she had been falling a lot. And she comes in, she could barely get up. I used to have, I don't know, 14, 16 steps to get up to my gym. And she had to get up the stairs. And I was just talking to her about this the other day. She's, yeah, I could barely even get up your stairs at the gym. And she walks in and I do her assessment and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this lady? She couldn't even get down on the floor to use the foam roller. And it was just baby steps and building her confidence up to the point where she went from being so afraid that she was going to fall, she would shuffle her feet like a really old person, to then being able to do skaters and being able to hold a plank for 3 minutes. So she was one of my early older success stories. And Marilyn was another one. She had back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, and she had put on some weight. So we just started doing a lot of original strength, a lot of ground based movements. And she just turned 80 this year. She actually had a spinal fusion and never even went to PT. So she was prepared going in and she has been able to work out. I think she missed maybe 3 months of training. And we just gradually built her back up from the ground again. There are certain exercises that she will never do again, and she misses doing them, but she's still functioning. She's still working out. Tammy, she was another one. She had sciatica. She was a desk jockey. She started training. She's, oh my gosh, I don't have back pain anymore. Bill Dunn, he's the guy that I just recently started working with. I just did his check in today. He's now up to 45 pounds lost, but he was another one. Knee pain, sciatica. I'm like, all right, we're just going to start doing really basic things with resistance bands and your nutrition and your body weight. Beth, my age, she was doing my nutrition program and then started working out with us as well. She dropped 40 pounds and she had awful knee pain. She's, I don't think I'm going to be able to work out. We didn't do lunges for a long time, but now she's able to do lunges, and movement and getting stronger and protecting your joints is actually going to be able to help you get out of pain oftentimes. Any questions from you guys out there in Zoom land?
I have a question. I like that you said all the sit ups and all of that, that you're protecting your spine instead of doing those. And
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. And I think that's very interesting.
So when you think about in between all of our vertebra, we have the lower portion of our back, we have the middle portion of our back, and then we have our neck.
Right.
All of those portions of our spine have vertebra, and in between each vertebra are these spongy little things called our discs.
Right.
As we get older, just like our skin, just like our muscles, the spongy discs start to lose their suppleness, their
Yeah.
sponge. And a lot of times that's when you start to have, there's so many different things that can go on: spinal stenosis, disc degeneration. You can have little bone spurs that poke into your spinal cord or into those discs that cause major pain. But the more that we're sitting and the more sedentary we are, we're not strengthening all the muscles that are supporting our spine or supporting our body in general. And we're doing ourselves a disservice by not moving because of all those things, right? We
Right.
want to create the strength, we want to improve our joints. So, everybody after the age of 40, probably even sooner, is going to start experiencing degeneration of some kind, really everywhere, right?
Yeah.
We know after the age of 30 that our muscle starts to decline, but everything starts to shift around. And as women, it's even a little bit more so for us, just because of the change that we do go through, more so than men. And the sit ups, when you think about it, you're curling your spine, right?
Yeah.
No, one portion of your disc is getting smushed, while the back portion of your disc is opening because the vertebra is pressing down, right? In the front, the back in the back. And then as far as twisting is concerned, when you're 30, when you're 20, not a problem. But if
Right.
you start having things going on with the bone in your spine and you have no idea, and you're doing this loaded med ball twist, and
Yeah.
most of the time people are in a rounded posture to begin with, it's just a recipe for disaster. I remember one of my clients was training for dragon boat and she showed me the workout and I'm like, this is insane. You need to not do this. And whoever's creating this for our age group needs to stop because, yes, this is fine for kids and 20-year-olds and even 30-year-olds, but you don't need to do those kind of things to accomplish what you need to accomplish in order to paddle, and you're going to get hurt. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
yeah,
I like thinking of things that way. That's wonderful.
there's always a way to accomplish. And Kristen knows this because she's been training with me for a while. We have maybe 6 or 7 people that jump on in the morning at 9 o'clock East Coast time, and we work out. And anybody is welcome to join us, by the way. But all of us are between the age of 40 something and almost 70. I think John's 69 this year. And we're all doing different movements, but accomplishing something similar. And to know and understand that you can do anything. You can't do everything, but you can do something. And that's where having a somebody that knows how the body works and if you're in pain, what to do and what not to do is really important when it comes to not getting hurt. And I can understand why it can be intimidating. And that's why I think it's really important for people in their 40s, 50s, and on up to work with a coach and get the knowledge and the help. Because I always say, would you try to fix your own car or would you hire a mechanic to do that? Would you do your own surgery? Probably not. So it's the same thing with your exercise. Any other questions? Latrice, seriously, are you standing still because you have your helmet on? She's in a virtual world, or it must be your camera background. That's what it is. Ah, that's hilarious. I'm like, she's in a virtual bike, but I know she's mountain biking